really the mission is to bring young people into squash in our community who would never have any access to it. And I'd say 100% of the kids and their families never heard about squash before, but now we have about 90 to 100 scholarship kids. So some degree, either they don't pay anything or they pay a little, pay what you can.
Welcome to another edition of Boast About It. I'm super excited. I have to confess I'm pretty much always super excited, but I'm super excited today because I'm with Lilien, who is one of the best women's squash players in the city. Julie,
wow.
Welcome.
Thank you for that.
Well, I mean, you have won tournaments in your age group a few times, right?
Yeah, I mean like 14 times.
So, as I said, one of the best women's squash players in New York.
Yeah, but thank you for having me.
It's my
great
pleasure.
to be here.
It's great to have you. So, I thought I would start by asking the question I always ask, which is, how did you get into squash?
It's a good question. I believe I was my father, way back when I was 5 years old and hanging around New York City and had nothing to do on a Saturday, and he took me and my brother downtown and started playing. But back then it wasn't, it was like once a week, maybe once every other week. But I immediately took to it and loved it and had enough coordination to get everybody's attention. So then I continued and played my first tournament when I was 12. And I think I won that.
Oh, no way! First tournament and you won?
I think I did, yes.
Oh my God, I've never won anything.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I have only enthusiasm.
Well, you won this. You won
There you go.
You won the Boast.
I'm winning Boast About It.
Boast About It, yeah.
Did you have to go through the pain of switching from hardball to softball? Or
I did. I was of that generation.
How was that? How was that transition?
That was, it was good for me because I'm a runner, and I think softball was just more running around, and I could draw the point out. And so I.
So you were good, and it made you better?
I loved it. Yeah.
Wow.
I like the transition.
So let's switch from there, because you said something at the very beginning which I didn't know. I knew you'd won a bunch of tournaments, but 14 tournaments?
I believe
Can you list some of them? What was the first and the last?
I didn't count, but there's skill and age, and back in the day, they used to combine them, so you could play actually in one national weekend of tournaments. You could do age and skill. So I won a number of those, both of them in the same weekend. So that was always So, but there was a time. So I played when I was little, and I went to high school and played, and then in college I actually quit, which was pretty dramatic.
Well, that's the opposite of what usually happens. People go to college and they get even better.
That's right.
What
that's
happened?
Right. And I might regret that a little, because I think I probably would have gone pro or something. But I was burnt out, and I wanted, I was in college and hanging around with the seniors. I was one of the only freshmen on the team. I think it was a lot of pressure. I was at number one. It was when Middlebury, they didn't have a strong team, so. Not that I wasn't strong, but I don't think I was strong enough in number one. So I was playing all the top women in, the country at number one, like Demmer Holloran. And so I wanted to do other things. But I do remember, because my father was very involved in my squash, always really supportive, like a great squash parent. But I hesitated to tell him. I was so scared to tell him. And I remember the day I called him to say I didn't want to play anymore. And there was a great pause, and then he said, "I'll support you, I understand, I love you," and I just probably burst into tears,
That wasn't yesterday, and I can tell you remember it like it was yesterday.
Oh yeah, it was very significant that I didn't want to disappoint him.
Yeah. Did you play other sports in college?
I didn't, no. Then I started running. I became, I'm very focused on whatever sport I start, so I became...
It's true. So you've run, have you done triathlons?
Triathlons, marathons, and tennis. So.
Have you won the same kind of accolades in those other things as you have?
Yeah, I've done a number of triathlons where I've won. My age group, it's all age groups, all amateur stuff. But when I focus pretty hard.
And what sort of triathlons are you doing?
Just the Olympic.
Remind me how long the Olympic triathlon
That
is?
is just a mile swim, 24-mile bike ride, and a 10K, 6.2 mile run. So it's not nothing.
That is more reasonable than the
It's
Ironman.
reasonable.
Yeah.
It's reasonable. But you have to do it very fast. So.
Yeah.
So yeah, I took a break from squash. I've done that a lot. But then, I've always come back to it. So when I was thinking about how I feel about squash, I think that squash is like my home. And, the metaphor, that court is like my room, And so through my life, I really have come to it and then maybe left it, but I always, come back to it.
You were this avid squash player as a junior. You won a bunch of stuff. I still can't believe you won your first tournament. I'm so jealous. And then you went to college and you said no. And then I sort of stalked you on the internet.
Right.
And I saw that you started your career really in sort of children's aid foundations.
Right.
Talk to us about that. So, I mean, because most of your career seems to have been in the non-profit world helping others.
That's right. That's right.
And so
I went, graduated college and then, had a brief career in publishing and thought it was pretty superficial. I thought I wanted to be a writer, and then I ended up deciding I wanted to go do foster care. And much to my parents' horror, I went into the bowels of Brooklyn and the Bronx and became a caseworker, like with no experience. So I would manage these kids in foster care. And
what was it in you that made you want to go and help these kids in foster care?
Good question. I think giving back. I came from a very family with good values, and like we didn't have we weren't super fancy, but we had, it was important to think about that. And I just felt like, I've had a, pretty privileged upbringing. So I want to try to, I was pretty, not ideal. Yeah. Kind of idealistic, which is great. I'm not saying I'm not now, but.
So foster care in, a couple of decades ago in the Bronx was probably quite the experience.
Yeah, definitely. And but I think, as I said, it really was my squash, that I have a toughness.
I have seen you on court.
I play a lot of men. I felt like I had, and that's a whole other thing, but I felt like I had to be strong and have that tough veneer, so I brought that into, when I was out on the street.
You are awesome on court. I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah, I had the street smarts and kind of brought that to my social work. And then I went back and went to school for it, so I got a LMSW, so I'm a licensed, therapist, do that a little bit. But throughout that, then I had started playing squash again, so I really felt like if I didn't have that, I remember going to the courts in Cobble Hill, New York Sports Club, early in the morning or late at night, because I was working 12 hours a day, just to have that outlet, while I was doing this. What I thought was great. I mean, it was intense, but it was amazing time.
It is so true. I certainly find it when my work is brutal. I think everyone has work at some point that's brutal.
Of course.
Being able to get on court.
Of course.
And it just takes you into another place.
Yeah.
It's like Zen meditation, but with sweat.
Yeah, exactly.
As we go through your career, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add before I go to the fact that you worked as a matchmaker.
That's right. Yes.
How did you make the transition from caring for children
That's right.
to matchmaking?
Well, so interesting, tying back to squash. So I knew this woman for 20 years who did a lot of the tournaments, and we would see each other at the tournaments. So she was a matchmaker, and I unfortunately was going through a divorce. So I started talking about her because I was suddenly single again, talking to her about this crazy new world. I'd been in a marriage for a long time. And then, we sort of started partnering. She said, I lost my business partner. Do you want to try it? I was between consulting gigs in the not-for-profit world, and I said, I'm going to go over to the dark side of the for-profit. But with also, it is still helping people and hearing people's stories. And that's, I'm usually on your side, asking the questions and hearing the stories. So that's kind of my expertise, I would say, or what I like to do.
What's been your most rewarding experience in matchmaking?
Well, matching people who, then they're either married or they go off into the sunset. I mean, it's tough for people, but we've had success, or I wouldn't still be there. But
Do you specialize in particular?
We're any age. With COVID, I think we got a lot of younger people, which is unfortunate. I think COVID really had an impact on younger people and meeting people and the socialization skills that some people don't have now, or they're working from home. I think it's a blessing and a curse. Like, hybrid work has hurt young people to some extent, and online dating is tough. Yeah, but it's a great business. And then, when you and David Ellen reached out to me about the job at Open Squash, which I run, it went right back to my social work and squash. So it's like the perfect synergy.
Yeah, so let's just go back to that for a second, because I did notice that before you joined and helped us here at Open Squash, you worked a little bit at Hudson Guild.
Yes, I had some consulting. So I was a consultant for a number of years.
And then we came along and could
Hudson
you
Guild.
help us set up a program at Hudson Guild?
Yeah.
Sort of major coincidence.
Right, it was a coincidence. Yeah.
I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah.
We're very happy with the work that Julie does for Open Squash. It's very meaningful. But in your own words, why don't you describe the work that we do at Open Squash and that you lead? Right.
I was hired and charged with supporting our mission of getting kids and juniors for my program, because we also help adults too, but children into squash. So it started with Hudson Guild. And then we've really expanded to other schools, and so we have a range of kids. So really the mission is to bring young people into squash in our community who would never have any access to it. And I'd say 100% of the kids and their families never heard about squash before, but now we have about 90 to 100 scholarship kids. So some degree, either they don't pay anything or they pay a little, pay what you can.
Yeah, I just want to underline that, because this is not you going out. We have someone else who does this, who goes out and gets, squash people to pay full freight for our junior program.
Right.
You're not running that.
No. This is kids who can't afford it and don't really understand, and their families. So I think it actually took a few years to kind of gain some momentum for it and have the program we have now. But and we started.
And are we at 100 kids now?
Yeah, about 100. Yeah.
Can I have a high five?
Another high five. One of the key concepts of it that we talked about from the beginning is getting the scholarship kids in with our juniors. So kind of not segregating, as I used to say when I saw.
That is such an important thing to me, this idea. It happens, I think, 100% of the time unintentionally, that other programs end up having this segment of society who doesn't know anything, can't afford squash, and they all play together and they're separate from everybody else. Yeah. And I obviously love what we do, which is we mix everyone together.
That's right. Because that's where you have really things start to happen.
Are you familiar with the study from Harvard that shows that the single largest predictor of the ability to move from one economic group to a higher economic group is the friends that you make as a kid?
That's right. Yes.
It's amazing. So I'm very excited that we have these lower economic kids mixing with higher economic kids, and I sincerely hope that we will change their lives forever.
Yeah, and that's the goal. There's a kid downstairs, Jaden. He's here like three or more times a week. He's in the tournament, but he's changed. I see it with his confidence and his skill, skill level. So
that must be so meaningful for you to see those things.
Yeah, no, it's amazing.
And now we have quite a lot of these partners. So there's Hudson Guild still. There's Success Academy. Do we have other partners as well?
Yeah, there's Transfiguration, which is another school. Then we've got some high schools too.
Which ones?
Millennium, Beacon.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So just as we wrap up, let's go back to the beginning of
Yes,
the conversation.
yes.
Your father got you playing.
Yeah.
Is he still playing now? How old is he?
Right. He's 99 in June.
Oh! So he's probably stopped now.
He did, but not that long ago. In fact, I have a video, which we may show here. I
Oh,
think
let's
it was-
definitely show the video.
Yeah, 91 or 92, I'm on the court with him, and he's still swinging. I mean, he could put it away, you know. He wasn't moving much, but he may have been the oldest guy I knew who was still on the court.
That's my new bar.
Yeah,
When did he stop? I have to know.
I think he was 94.
94.
Yeah.
Okay. First job, live to 94.
Yes, yeah.
Second job,
Yeah.
keep playing.
That's right. No, and I think for him, it was his social circle because most of his friends were not alive. So we would go down to the courts and, yeah, so that connection and back to my theme of, you know, squash is the home, you know, kind of whatever happens in life, and a lot of bad stuff happens and good stuff, but you can always kind of circle around to that court, you know, and you know it's a reliable outlet. That's
Just in closing, is there, if you could ask your home, your community for anything, what would it be?
Yeah, I think we could really use some mentors, some more mentors. I have one or two to help us with our students we have, to really bring them to the next level. You know, whatever that means, we have a whole concept of how it'll work, but you know, to be one-on-one with our kids.
And is that for squash or is that for...
That's squash in life.
So, if you want to do your bit for New York society and help other people who are perhaps haven't got as many resources as you, contact us at info@opensquash.org and help. Volunteer as a mentor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Julie, it's been
It's
fantastic.
been fabulous.
And I'd like to say, my best dressed guest.
Yes.
Yeah, number one.
Besides you.
Well, you know, setting the bar high.
Yeah.
You set the squash bar high.
Yeah.
Set the dress code.
The dress code. Very nice.
So he's limited to what he can bring to the.
Right, yeah.
Thank you.
yeah.
Mike's telling you that my ability to bring good squash is limited. Thank
Oh, I
you,
see.
Mike.
I see.
Thank you, Mike.
All right.